Hello, everybody. This is Coresair Mack, President of the Illinois Mental Health Counselors Association, and today I'm joined by our very own special guest, Siera Phillips. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. A little under the weather, but overall, I'm doing good.
Right? No, I feel you. It has been snowing, it has been cold, I've been blowing my nose. Hopefully, everything's out and it won't disrupt the interview. So if it does, I apologize in advance.
Well, the same for me too. I got some tissues on standby just in case, but hopefully that happens.
Right? Fingers crossed. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So for those that don't know, Sierra and I, we have a little bit of a past, right? We went to the same counseling
Yeah.
program together. We both worked at a job together. And then now she is on her own in private practice. But first, all of your fans want to know, how did you become interested in counseling?
Ooh, such a loaded question. Okay. Um, Honestly, I would have to say it was it was by mistake, somewhat of a mistake, but it turned out to be the most amazing surprise that I never knew that I wanted. So when I came to, when I was going to Northern, I knew I wanted to do something in the social service field because my mom had been in the social service field for as long as I know. And so I was just kind of like following the pattern, right? Like following what I have previously seen in my family. So that's what I knew. I knew I wanted to do something in social service. I just didn't know what. So I knew I was going to get my bachelor's, and I did in social services. So I think it was like a bachelor's in family and individual development. And so as I was nearing my graduation and, everything was coming to an end, something had happened and the field started changing. And it took me a few years to kind of like finish my program because of other obligations. I was a mom and I had to work. And so during that time, the field slowly started to change and it was breaking off into like two separate categories, either social work or counseling. And so there was still some social service in there, but it wasn't a lot and the pay wasn't great, right? And so you spend all this time in school and it's not quite what you were looking for. So I went to go talk to my guidance counselor at the time because I wanted to make sure, like, is what I'm saying true? Like, is this trend, is this changing? And so basically what she told me is yes, that I would have to go back to get a master's degree if I really wanted my first degree to work. And so she gave me a list of options. Um, so honestly, like I appreciated her for just being real with me and letting me know that what I was seeing, it was taking a turn into a new, different direction. And again, like I didn't know in those few years that the field would change like that. I should have been keeping up with it, but I just wasn't. And so I just went into it with that predetermined mind, like, oh no, this is what it was going to be. So I did leave a bit discouraged, because I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I could get a job, but again, it really wasn't what I really wanted to do. So I took some time off. I worked for a little bit. At the time, I was a daycare teacher. So I took some time off and spent some time there. And then I thought about it during those years. I reflected on what it is I wanted to do. And I went back for my master's degree and I decided to do counseling. And so even with that, like I knew that again, I still wanted to do something in the social service field, but I still didn't think I knew at that time like exactly what. Um, so I did go back and I think a few years into my program, a lot of stuff has started to almost like open my eyes and It actually got really dark, but I promise you it's going to get light. Um, which is the darkness is actually why I'm sitting here today. So I'm actually really, really proud of it. So I think a point in my journey, a pivotal point was when I got connected with my internship. And my internship was working with a domestic violence, so a domestic violence program, and it was based out in Rockford at the time. And so the director who was over that program, his name was Aaron Bergeron. He is a phenomenal, phenomenal person to run that program. In fact, I think I don't know if he's still at NIU. He also did his PhD. At the time, he was going back to do his PhD at NIU. So phenomenal person, hands down. I learned so much from him. But through that program, I also learned that I was in an unhealthy and very toxic relationship. And that was I was like mind blown, like to learn that because I was in my 20s, right? And you couldn't have told me that. No way you could have told me that. And I think because I was a teen mom and so early, that was my normal, right? That was
Yeah.
normal for me. I didn't know anything else. But anybody else who's like, you've been in the graduate program, you know how much time it takes, how much commitment it takes. You really have to have your support team. You have to have some people in your corner who really can support you. And through that program, you learn who really supports you and who doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in my situation, I learned that there was a lot of insecurities there for the other individual for me to, I was getting all of this wisdom. I was connecting with people. I was learning. And it was just, I think it was scary for the other person.
Yeah.
And, it came out in a different way. And so through that internship, I was so blessed. I think I was really supposed to be there because it just totally changed the course of my life and my path. And so, yeah, that was just even thinking about it now, like that was just such an amazing experience, just meeting with the males, because I was a co-facilitator for the male groups, and just hearing their stories, right? Because a lot of their stories wasn't as overt as people would think, sometimes you think, a woman beater or something like that, but they didn't start off that way. They started off like everybody else. You in a relationship, you may have started out young, like myself, and you guys just didn't have the tools to make it work, right? And so then things get heated, and that's how it kind of starts from there. And so I think just hearing their sides of the stories and things like that and be able to help them and learn like what domestic violence looks like and all the different forms, because it doesn't necessarily have to be physical abuse. It could be emotional, mental, right? um so that was very enlightening for me. And so I was able to, after that, I guess, long story short, I needed to heal myself because that was a lot of information for me to take on, and I still had to finish the program. So eventually that relationship, it came to an end, and I had to take some time to heal through that. And the counseling program was the best place for me to do that because I healed through education. I healed through knowledge. And um, it actually motivated me, that experience through my pain. It motivated me to be where I am today and work with the people that I'm working with today because of that moment. It was a huge, huge lesson learned for me.
Hey, definitely. Wow. A
I
lot that
know,
I didn't even know about you. So,
I know. And I don't think nobody did because I kept a smile on my face, and I was there for a reason, but it was really, really rough, really, really rough for me. And but now I can, even through this, I can tell my story, and it's okay. Because then when I say I learned so much, and it's been so healing for me, and it's really inspired me to do the work that I'm here to do today.
Hmm. Definitely. Well, there's no great way to transition to the second question from that, but I will do my best. Right. So ultimately, you told us a lot about your experiences, how the program and even your internship helped you see a lot of different things that was happening in your life. And that's really great. So then to give quick shout outs to those programs. So where did you go to school for your undergraduate and graduate degrees?
Northern all the way. Bachelor's and master's. I didn't leave.
All right, perfect. Right, that just shows how great of a school Northern is. And nope, they're not paying me to say that either.
No, they
Right.
really are great. I really did like form some really great connections.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's how me and you still know each other. But I still do talk to a lot of the professors there. I still keep in contact with them. So it's a really great program.
Well, perfect. So then, how long have you been doing therapy for?
I would say for about 4 years. I graduate I graduated in 2018.
Hmm.
So yeah, for about 4 years now. Sometimes it seems longer, but it's been about 4 years.
Okay. Like I said, I thought it was longer too. No, it's like sometimes I count my practicum, then my internship as counselors are like, hey, I actually did counseling there. So I count those years too.
True. True. Because where are you at? You're at like 6 years now, right?
6 or 7, give or take one of the two.
Yeah, because I think you were like maybe 2 years ahead of me.
I
Two or
graduated in 2017, May
okay.
2017.
Yeah.
And then I count my internship and my practicum with that too. So,
Yeah, I get that.
all right. So then you graduated in 2018, right? And then you're out there in the world doing your thing. And then I know you talked about this a little bit already, but I'll still ask you, what places did you work at starting off in your profession and what did you learn as a result from working at those places?
Yeah, so I graduated like on a Friday, and then on Monday I started working. So yeah, it wasn't a lot of break there. I was ready to get started. I was like, I'm here, world, like I'm ready to make change. And so I got my first job at a community mental health agency.
Mhm.
And you were there, but just working in a different department. But I started off in access. And again, I don't know, I just felt like that was the most perfect spot for me to start off at, especially just starting off in the career in this field, because as an access counselor, you get a chance to meet all different sort of people, all different sort of populations across all different sort of spectrums of mental health. And then that's really where you get to see the hub of how like mental health really works. And so I was able to, do their assessments, understand what was going on for them, and then link them with the different departments, right? So I
Mhm.
do think that really helped me not only understand, like I said, the mental health spectrum, but just understand how the system itself works.
Mhm.
Um, so I stayed there for a while, and then I think about maybe a year and a half, 2 years into that, I switched over departments to outpatient
Mhm.
because I really wanted to change. I wanted to work with people more one on one, which I was doing that as an access counselor, but it was more short term.
Mhm. Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to see their growth, right? Because I was handing them off to either the outpatient team or CST, right? Out to
Yeah.
you. So I didn't get a chance to see that growth. So I switched over because I wanted to work with somebody who was struggling at the time and be able to see their growth. So yeah, it was I would say hands down, community mental health for me was the right way to go.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And for those of you that don't know, the reason why I didn't say the name of the company because I had a brain fart, but we worked at Rosecrans together in Rockford. So that's what she's referring to. So I'm not trying to keep it secret or anything. I just, well, now you know.
Yeah, it's a really great place
Mhm.
though to work out, to work at.
Right. Okay, so you were working at Rosecrans for a while there, and then somewhere, somehow in that whole experience, you decided, it's time. It's
Yeah.
time to get my own business. So, what was the process that led you to want to start your own private practice?
Um, so I noticed a pattern about myself, and I think I'm just started to notice that I don't have a lot of a process, right? I could just get these ideas and I'm like, let's do it. Like this is what I want to do. Um, but I didn't have like a solid plan. I had somewhat of an idea that I wanted to transition out. And I think because, although I really enjoy working there, anybody who's worked in community mental health can probably, understand what I'm saying. It can be a lot, right? Caseloads are high, so burnout is higher. And then because burnout is higher, then employees leave faster, right? And so that just
Mhm.
kind of messes with the system, especially when you're trying to help people. So that was one end of it. And then I think another side to me wanting to transition is because we were working with more chronic mental illness, right?
Mhm.
Um, and although I like working with that population too, but there was something that I wanted to do that was a bit different than that. Kind of going back to what really kept me in the counseling program, what really fed me, right, to continue the program. And that was through what I was going through. So I think I wanted to do more work with couples and individuals who are looking for self growth. And so that led me to transition out and to open my own private practice.
All right, definitely. All right, so this next one I forgot to put on the question list, but I
Yeah.
think this is a good one to ask because it helps a lot of people put into consideration, right? Helps them paint the whole picture with starting a private practice. So, what hurdles did you have to overcome when you were starting a private practice to get it up and running?
Oh, yeah. Um, I would say the financial piece is probably the biggest piece that I had to overcome because you're coming from something that's a bit more stable
Mhm.
and secure to, you're your own employee, right? And so the money just doesn't flow at first how, when you're in a more corporate sort of job. So that was one of the biggest pieces, I would say, security, and stability. But eventually you adjust and you get the hang of it. Um, I will also have to say another hurdle would be just to trust yourself, like trusting myself, and really trying to gravitate towards, the people that I really wanted to work with and the people I really wanted to serve.
Mhm. All right, perfect. So then, speaking of people and people you wanted to serve and things like that, one of the biggest things I always take a look at when I look at private practices are their name. And I'm always wondering why did they choose that individual or specific name? So you chose Reflection is Healing for
Yeah.
your private practice name. So why did you choose that name? Is there any significance behind it?
Yeah. So for me, you don't know or you can't understand where you're going until you reflect on where you've been.
Mhm.
So for me, reflection has always been a big part of my life, right? Um, and so you got to reflection is healing. once you reflect, take some time to think about your choices, some of the things you're doing, where you see yourself, where is it that you want to go, it will provide you with so much comfort and so much awareness. And I think we need that. And sometimes I think people think, they reflect all the time, right? Because you're thinking, you're in your own head. But in my practice, I actually do like make it exercise, right? So I'm encouraging you to like carve out at least 30 minutes in your week where you are reflecting either on a conversation we had or you are reflecting on your goals. Um, and I encourage you to like to take away all the distraction, no phone, no TV. If you like music, right, you could definitely do that. But just take some time with yourself and reflect on, where you've come from, where you are now, and then where you want to be.
All right, nice. Well, like I said, you put a lot more thought into your name than I did into mine. Well, that's great though. That's
I
great.
wouldn't have thought that. I wouldn't have thought that. Oh, so why did you choose your name?
Oh, well, my last name, empowerment, sounded awesome. And counseling.
But
Yeah.
you empower people. That's what you do. That's what I kind of thought.
Oh, yeah, sure. There you go. Well, I'm glad. Well, I'm going to use that now. You can't copyright that. So, yep, I chose my name because I empower people.
Right,
Boom.
go for it.
Not just because it sounds cool. All right. So, speaking of you and your private practice and things you do for clients, so are there any projects that you're working on in your private practice that you would want us or other people to know about?
Yeah, I mean, so I often have like, I'm like, ooh, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. Like, I have all these thoughts about things that I want to do, but I think over the past few months, I've really been working on my blog and my social media presence. Those are the two of my main focus. And it's really because, you know, counseling is a resource, or any sort of therapy is a resource that it's actually really a privilege for people to have, and not everybody can afford it, or sometimes you don't even have time for it. And so, one of the things that I really want to do is to have this space where, for people, even if you don't have time for it, you can still utilize my website, or you could utilize my Facebook to get tips and strategies about how to maintain your wellness and your mental health and things like that.
All right, perfect. So before we come back to your blogs, I want to ask you this question first because I think it's very important since you have a lot of knowledge and information and experience with private practice. So, what advice would you give someone that is looking to start their own private practice?
Yeah. I would say definitely work in your zone of genius. I heard that once before when I was listening to a podcast, and I think that really stuck with me. Um, because when I was starting to transition out of community mental health, I did find myself kind of getting stuck in my same patterns, right? Um, I was, I guess, serving people and working with people who still had, like, like chronic severe mental illness and things like that, which like I said, like I'm okay. Excuse me. That's like a cold thing going on. Um, but yeah, I was okay. Like I like doing that sort of work, but that wasn't like my passion. That's not what drove me. That's not what got me up and kept me going. So I did have to again sit down with myself and ask myself, like, who is it that you want to work with? Um, what what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want your mark to be? And then it really goes back to that experience that I had back in grad school, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's how I began to work with couples, right? Not so much on the domestic violence component, because at that point it's almost like it's too late, right? But I work on the other end of that. So stopping all of that stuff before it gets to that point. Um, and that's what really drives me to work with people, because I want to see couples strive. I want to see families strive, because that's how our kids are going to strive, right? If the parents are strong, the kids are going to be strong. Their mental wellness is going to be good. They're going to grow up and they're going to pass that down to their kids. So I'm
Yeah.
really trying to create that just from my experience with going through that. So I think um, just really working in my zone of genius, working with couples, and then I also do individual work too. So helping them, but a lot of the people that I do work with, if they're not coming to me for couples, they're in a relationship of some
Mm.
kind.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out, is this the relationship for them? If it is, how can they change some stuff about themselves, or should they be looking at things different? So a lot of, individual growth there. So I think when I started working in my zone of genius, that's when, like, I wake up and I love to go to work. Like, I love to go to work. And I don't think I've been able to say that,
Mm.
in
Yeah.
all of my years of working. Like, it's fun.
All right. So going back to what I said earlier, I noticed that you wrote quite a few blogs, right? And as people, or a lot of counselors are trying to get more into blog writing. So I'm just wondering from you, how do you come up with ideas for your blogs and what is your writing process?
Yeah. Um, so a lot of the content that I write really comes from people who the most commonly, asked questions that I get, really. So I kind of keep note of that and write content based off of that. So whether, the clients that I have now, if I notice certain themes that come up, I'll keep that in mind and I'll write something around it. Or I'll write something for people who don't really know what therapy is, maybe they're on the fence about it. So I help it become not so scary to them, so I'll write content around that. So yeah, I think that's part of the process. Like, I just come up with things from questions that people ask me, and maybe people who've called and inquired about services too. They're very helpful in this process as well. Because that's stuff that people want to know, right? So I just, yeah, keep keep a mental note of that, and I'll write pieces around it.
All right, perfect. All right, so another question that I didn't put in here, before we get into the final three questions, because all good things must come to an end eventually, but we're not ending just yet. All right, so a lot of times, a lot of people don't realize that being Black and a mental health counselor comes with its own, the best way I could describe it, comes with its own bubble of things.
Yeah,
Right. So I just wanted to ask what your experience is being a Black mental health counselor.
yeah. It's honestly been a wonderful experience. My practice is still located in the DeKalb area, so it's actually Sycamore, but Sycamore is a small town, so if people don't really know that, DeKalb, home of NIU. And so one of the reasons why I brought the services back here is because going to school, I noticed there wasn't many African Americans in general who was going to be a counselor, right?
Mhm.
And then if we even break that down, it wasn't a lot of men, so you are rare in the
Yeah.
field, and it's not a lot of women.
Mhm.
Um, so having that sort of, um, I don't want to say uniqueness, because we don't choose who who we are, but it's definitely been a beautiful gift, I would say, just to be able to bring that back to the area where, people who do feel more comfortable talking with someone who looks similar to them and who they think that could identify, with some of their struggles and some of the generational things that they had to go through, is very helpful. In fact, I can say I know for sure it's been very helpful because a lot of the clients that I serve are African American males who, well, let me say this, I serve men clients. I have a larger men clientele
Mhm.
in general, but half of that is African American males. I will say that. And I think where that comes from is because there has been fatherless homes has been a thing across all races, right? That's not unique to any race.
Mhm.
But I think in the African American household, it does tend to be a bit higher, you know. And I think for African American men, as they're growing up with mothers, right? Young mothers, because I have two sons, right? Um, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, I'm sure that their mothers can't teach them and stuff that they go through that if you have a supportive mother, she could do the best that she can, but I'm sure there's some stuff that they still think about that, you know, still kind of follows them. And, just not having that father figure there. And so a lot of the men that I do see, excuse me, um, they're learning that male absence, right,
Mhm.
um, starts to come into play into their relationships. So most people don't find me because they're like, oh, I have dad issues or oh, I have mom issues. It starts to come out because they're in a relationship and some stuff is going on, right? That's
Right.
how they come to me. And it's through the work that I do because I'm really big on attachment, right? And I
Mhm.
speak to that in some of my blogs. So it's through the work that I do that we get down to the core of some of that stuff. And so for me, like being able to work with young African American males, and I give my hats off to them because they are open and they are willing to come and they are willing to learn.
Mhm.
It's an honor. It's an absolute honor because I want to hype them up. I want to make them stronger because there is some woman out there who is just waiting for them. And I want them to be like ready to give all the love and the nurturance they have and to have worked through their sort of like complex traumas, and sifted through some of that stuff so they can be the best person and the best husband, partner that they can be.
Mhm. All right. Perfect. Great. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, I mean, it's your experience, so I couldn't have said it anyway. But
It's really wonderful. It's an absolute honor to see them and to see some of my clients like go through this go through this process and then they have these aha moments and just to work with them through that is it's amazing. Like I honestly I love them. I love all my clients. Like I was just really blessed with a good group. Like they are amazing. They are killing
all right, perfect. I'm glad to hear that.
it.
Well, if you hear that, if you're one of her clients and are hearing that, make sure you pay her a little bit more since she's not just kidding. But if any of you guys become rich, remember she said that, so pay off her student loans. All right. So as we get down to the final three questions, because of course, all good things must come to an end, unfortunately. First, out of the final three, is there anything that you would like to tell people that are starting out in the field or have been in the field for a while?
Yeah, so I would say going back to that one saying that they always used to tell us, trust the process. I like when they used to tell us that, the professors and even us, we used to tell each other that because we didn't know what to say to give each other comfort, and we would say, trust the process, right? And at that time, you'd be like, yeah, like I guess. But honestly speaking, trust the process. Um, because you never know where it's gonna lead you. And like, I mean, if you would have told me 6 years ago, 7 years ago that I would have, even longer than that, that I was going to go to school to get my master's in counseling, graduate, become a licensed counselor, and open your own private practice, I would have been like, no, no. Okay, that's nice to say. Thank you for believing in me. But okay, but yeah, just going through that process, like who knew? I don't even think I knew. Like I said, going through my graduate program, that all that stuff was going to hit me, all that insight, all that education. Like I didn't know that I was going to stumble upon, information about my life during that. I was here to help other people to get that information. How did this turn out to be something that I needed to work through, right? So being able to just trust the process, and eventually it will come to you. It may not come to you in that moment. It definitely didn't come to me in that moment. 7, 8 years later, it did, and I'm able to say that now.
All right, perfect. So then before we get to our most important question,
Yeah.
we got the second question here. So is there anything that you would like to say that I haven't had a chance to ask you?
Um, no, I think we've covered it all. Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, so the most important question then, where can people find and contact you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website or, like I said, through social media, but mostly people go to my website. It's reflectionishealingcounseling.com. If you go there, you can, like I said, browse the blogs, you can browse any sort of information. And even if you're not seeking me out and you're looking to seek someone else out, there's information there that you could utilize. You can find how to contact me there. I have a contact page. My telephone number is posted there. So yeah, reflectionishealingcounseling.com.
All right, perfect, perfect, and perfect. All righty, everybody, that is going to be it for this interview. Thank you very much for coming on, Sierra. We're going to have you back for a part two.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, other than that, everybody, this is Coresair Mack, president of the Illinois Mental Health Counselors Association, signing out, and I will see you at the next interview. Take care.
All right, bye.